program, let me just make the statement. It's sponsored by BountyJobs. I'll give you a little commercial there. When I give a commercial, it's pretty short and pithy anyway. P-I-T-H-Y. I want to talk about becoming a real recruiter. And I wrote an article last week, I think it was last Thursday, just a week ago today, on ERE about what it takes to be a real recruiter. So I kind of want to obviously justify that rationale, what I think the difference between recruiting and sourcing, and recruiting active candidates and recruiting passive candidates. So let me kind of give you the quick take of what we're going to talk about. I want to make this as interactive as possible, and it is a bit challenging, but if you folks ask questions, constantly challenge some of the stuff I say, I have absolutely no problem with that because it makes me clarify my thinking as well. Sometimes I do talk fast and skip stuff I don't really want to skip. So here's what we're going to talk about. I want to give you an overview of, super quick, performance-based hiring and why I'm going to contend that's the fundamental building block of real recruiting. Then I want to define real recruiting, why it's essential if you want to raise your talent bar, rank yourself and your recruiter team, and if you're using outside recruiters, you can say, hey, are these any good? Are third-party recruiters any good? And quite frankly, I think third-party recruiters screw up quite a bit. So I'm going to say, hey, if you want to be a good third-party recruiter and earn your fee, you got to do real recruiting. So I'm pretty hard-nosed about that. I believe that a good recruiter who earns his fee, third-party, better bring in good talent, better do it the right way. If they're just throwing in resumes and hopefully one sticks, I don't consider that real recruiting. That's the biggest slot machine approach. And what would you have to do to become a real recruiter? So I'm going to try to offend everybody. My goal is to offend everybody on this call today as best I can. I will feel abject failure if I don't get everybody aggravated. So that's the goal. So bear with me. Let me give you the word of caution just to start. This program is about recruiting outstanding passive candidates. I don't consider posting an ad and getting a great, well, that's not true. If the supply of talent is much greater than the demand, I mean, you just can post an ad and you got a bunch of great people, you're a great employer brand, that is a great strategy, but it's not recruiting. Let's be real frank. I mean, and it's certainly perfect, and if you get great people doing it, I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it, and I would do it first if you could too. On the other hand, if the supply of talent is tight and you post an ad and you get good people to respond because, ooh, that was a pretty cool job, I'm okay with that. That's recruiting. If you have to network and call people up, that's recruiting too. So I just want to kind of define, if you get a bunch of great people by not doing much because you got a great company, a great brand, or your circumstances or such, and I think Microsoft was certainly that group in the 90s, Google certainly that group in the aughts, the 2000 to 2010, and certainly LinkedIn and Facebook are in that group right now. Google probably still in the group, but not certainly, they are losing some folks. So I want to kind of set the stage of what I define real recruiting. Some of the things I'll say you might find objectionable. I don't think I actually have much objectionable stuff here, but just to put the caveat there, if it does seem inconsistent with the way you do business, don't just immediately disagree. Figure out why I said it. And it's very possible that I said it incorrectly. And because I speak fast, I sometimes do that. So I don't have any problem with it. I'm happy to clarify it. So I just urge you to keep an open mind, challenge the fundamental assumptions. Now, the final component, I am a pretty direct person. I grew up in the Bronx. I had to fight for a living. I was very competitive in business. I did very well at 2 Fortune 500 companies. I got into recruiting, and I did extremely well there. So I'm a pretty competitive person. I'm direct, in your face. I'm not talking about my style when I do that. I've had plenty of people work for me who had a totally different style, were equally, if not more successful. It's about the concepts, not my style. I know you have to separate those two, so I just give you that fair warning. And if you've been to any of the workshops I do, you know I make this statement all the time. So let me kind of just give you the overview of performance-based hiring and why I am going to contend it's the fundamental building block of real recruiting. At least I'm going to try out. There we go. Responding slightly slower here for some reason. Well, I'll have to put them both down. If you want to hire a top person who is not looking, top person, truly passive candidate, and I'll call top, let's say the top half of the top halves. So raise your talent bar, certainly the top quartile of all people doing that work. If you want to hire a person like that who's not working or who has multiple opportunities, counter offer, competitive offer, so it's active or passive, you better have a good job. I mean, that's so obvious, and yet, and let me also make the statement is, if you use job descriptions as your primary advertising tool, you are already violating fundamental rule 1. Top people do not want lateral transfers. So if your job description emphasizes skills, duties, and responsibilities, you're actually offering a lateral transfer, not a career move. So just make that statement 1. Statement 2 is good people don't look for work the way average people look for work, particularly if they're not looking. You got to woo them, you got to attract them, you got to engage them, and they're hard to pull away. So you've got to have a different approach to going after sourcing good people. I'll find out why I'm not making the slide deck move the way I want it to move, but we'll see. Number 3 is you the recruiter, better be a very, very good assessor of talent. And sometimes good people don't have all the experience. You can't just say 5 years of this, 6 years of this, 2 years of that. You've got to actually be able to talk to that person, engage with that person, and figure out this is a good person. Because I don't know about you. Let's get into some chat here. Do you ever have hiring managers who are not very good at judging talent or are too specific with respect to their job requirements or aren't very good at interviewing or aren't very good at recruiting? You ever have a hiring manager who isn't all good at that kind of stuff? So Stacy says yes. We can get a few more yeses here. Only Stacy is the only person in this whole group? Okay, now we're starting to feel like a lot more. Of course we do. We got a lot of hiring. So I learned very early to become a very good interviewer. I sat in on literally hundreds of interviews of managers, and I started figuring out. We came up with our 2-question interview. And it became so important and so easy to learn, but it also allowed me to defend my candidate from managers who make dumb decisions. Particularly, I also discovered there's some great people who didn't have all the skills. So I had to then defend them even more. Hey, there's a top person, has slightly less background than you want, different industry, different academics, but world-class person. Well, you got to. That's why being a good interviewer is real critical. We're not going to get into that today. I just make the statement is that's part of our recruiter training course. We train recruiters just as a business line, just so you guys know, and I know you probably do, is we train recruiters, we train hiring managers, and we also train people doing a search together. As much of the marketing on my side. Now, the final piece is, let's be real frank. If you don't close the deal, if you can't close the deal with a certain budget, you fail. I mean, if I cannot close the deal, I'm a failure. I look at it. Hey, this is your budget, $120,000. If I got to go to 115, can't come to terms here, I fail. I don't care how good a job I did. So I've made the contention very early on is I am not going to close on money. It's not about the money. It's about the career move. So everything I talk about is the idea that we've got to offer you a career. The money is going to be pretty much what it is. So I'm not even going to fight that. It's going to be about a career move. So a lot of real recruiting is converting the discussion into a career move. But from a practical standpoint, you and the hiring manager, I should say, some of you are recruiters, some of you might not be, you and the hiring manager have to be on the same page. We're just recruiters. We don't do anything. That's not true. That's a silly statement. We don't hire the person. We find the person, we recruit the person, we assess the person, we close the person, but we don't make the decision. The hiring manager makes the decision. So if you're not working in concert with your hiring manager as a partner, very difficult to raise the talent bar. Unless your company is so great and people want to work at your company, they don't make it this, if you got that overriding issue, let's say this, in all the years I've been in business, because I don't get search assignments and for companies that have the great employer, but they don't need me. They need me when they can't. Joe's Plumbing and Supply in Wichita, Kansas needs me. So, I mean, most of the clients I've worked with have been those who are good companies but don't have the big brand, and they recognize they've got to really turn their jobs into careers. So that's where we're going here. That's the basis of performance-based hiring. What I want to do quickly, this is I'm going to get into some chat area here. I've put together a passive candidate recruiting competency model. I also have a generic model here if you want to download it right now. It's more generic for a corporate recruiter, but it's got some similar criteria on it. And it's got, here's what I would, and we in our recruiter boot camp, this is what we train against. You got to be results driven. SWK stands subject matter expert. Hiring manager, HM is hiring manager partner. You have to know the job. You got to understand the candidate. You got to be able to position the job as a move. You got to be able to good network. You got to be able to control the conversation, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go through all of those. Here's what I'd like to do. You can look at that specific circular chart. You can think for yourself, but the question I have for you here, what in your mind are the most important skills or factors involved in recruiting passive candidates? These are people who are clearly not looking. So what are the real skills required to recruit a passive candidate? Just put that in chat. Put as many as you got there. Can I put the link in the chat session? JJ, yeah, could you put the link in the chat session?
It's there.
Okay. No, the link to the handout for the 12-factor circle of excellence.
They're both there, the handout for the...
Oh, okay, so we got chat and we got corrections. Okay, you're right there. Okay. Okay, so what do you guys think? Type in the chat area what you think. So we have career move, overcome objections, go to close real. Evelyn seems to hit it pretty well. Can everybody see the answers here, JJ, or just us?
Nope, just you and me.
Okay. Relationship with top talent, certainly relationship building is right there. Keep on going. What do you think is most important? Locating is certainly important, but I'll tell you, I mean, that's of all the things, and I don't want to minimize it, it is not hard. That's the easy part in my mind. I mean, I can almost do that blindfolded, and I don't want to minimize it. It is not hard to locate good candidates. It's hard to, what Evelyn said, build a relationship, convince them to come in, convince them to meet the manager, convince them to take a lateral or just a modest move. That's hard. Understand the fit, absolutely critical. I mean, so let me kind of just say, there's no question. Here's what I'm going to contend, to be a real recruiter, you, the recruiter, better know the job. That's, to me, from a recruiter skill standpoint. If you don't know the job, you can't do anything else. Locating people, big deal. I mean, what am I locating? I don't want to minimize that component, but I got to tell you, it's the easy part. When you get them on the phone and you have to explain, they ask you, well, tell me about the job. Well, you better know it, or your history. They won't give you any referrals. They might not be interested. How can you value them? Working closely with the hiring manager, critical. If you don't have that relationship, you're not going to hire many passive candidates. Your focus has to be on quality of hire, not fill rate. How many people can I get in? So is this person really a good person? You've got to be able to recruit, control, close. And I'll go through some of those. And because I'm going to contend most of the people you talk with first, without any just cold calling, you don't know if they're any good or not. So you've got to very quickly be able to value that, identify the quality of that person, and is this person a quality candidate to recruit, and or should I network with the candidate? So again, you're making some real-time decisions, real-time. To me, that's what real recruiting is about. It's on the phone, you're talking with people, you're getting them engaged, you're qualifying them. If they're not qualified, you're getting more names from them. That's what we teach in our boot camp, what I just described there. I'm going to go through some highlights of it, but that's, to me, is real recruiting. What you might want to do is when you download this form, it's a little bit more generic than the, when you download this form, the generic version of our competency model, you might want to rank yourself on all of the factors just to see where you stand. Level 1 means you got the basic capability, but you need a lot of training. Level 2 means, hey, I can do it. You don't like to do it. You don't want to do it. I mean, I don't know, and I don't like working with an ATS. I'm not even a 2 with an ATS. I just hate it. So I'll do it, but I don't even do it well. I shorten it. I mean, I just don't like that. To me, it's a waste of time. Doesn't matter. If you're a corporate recruiter, you better be good at it. 2.5 is average. 3 is rock solid, meaning you're making your numbers. Great hire. Level 4, to be a level 4 in any of those things, you're training other people. So to be a level 4, and when we interview recruiters, we say, okay, who are you training? If you're not training anybody, you can't be, you're 3. That's it. If you're not recognized by a team as a leader in your field that they want to train from you, you're a 3. That's the rule. You can't be a 4 unless you're training others, and a 5 is you're training the trainers. You're a role model. Everyone, you write articles, you're seen, people know it. It doesn't take. It's easy to figure out if you're a 5. We have pretty strict guidance here, but we use a very similar scorecard for managers when they're interviewing candidates. We say a 3 is what you're looking for, and you'll find a few 4s and a few 5s, but the real issue for hiring great people is no 2s. It's go out of your way to find people who are competent and motivated to do the work. And if you don't hire 2s, that means you're not making mistakes. You're hiring a pretty cool team. All 3, 4s, and 5s. That's a cool team. So the point of it is at Recruiter Boot Camp, we go through all this stuff. We get you no matter what you score. So if you think you're a 2, 2.5, need a 3, we'll show you what to do is to be a role model, to be rock solid, to be one of the best so you can train others. That's what we do in boot camp. But now I want to kind of take a little different stake on this, and I want to look at the workflow from the perspective of a top person. And this is where I want you to start asking questions. So I want you to think about, let's just take a look at it. We'll look at, these are all top people. A top active candidate. So this is a top performer. Let's assume the person is somehow got displaced or is looking for a job. They're going to go to a search engine first to find your job. They're going to probably talk to an external recruiter, whether you like it or not. A good external, and I haven't done real recruiting for 10 years. I still get calls, and I get referrals from children of people I placed. I used to get, every day I would get calls when I was full-time recruiter from great people. So, I really did get, they contacted me because they knew I had multiple jobs. They might call a corporate recruiter, but generally not unless they already know you. They wouldn't call you because you only have the job at your company. But they might connect with your employees, there's no question. So a lot of technology is built about automating the internal employee referral program. So I'm just giving you some sense. If you have a talent pool, meaning you're building a resumes of good people, which is a great strategy, you're obviously sending outbound emails to these people. You're using Boolean search to bring them in to find them. You're calling them up on the phone. And now more and more technology like JobVite in your talent pool is automatically connect them to their employees. So lots of times you might send an outbound email. They then decide to apply. Before they apply, there's a shortcut. Hey, do you know any employees at our company? So that's how good people look for work. Now, if it's a passive candidate, you're going to look on LinkedIn. You're going to probably look on Google Plus soon or Facebook. I just tend to like LinkedIn. To me, it's simpler, and for the searches I do, I can find everybody by either there or 1 degree of separation. I will send them an email, an outbound email, which is very, very compelling, and/or I'll call many of them. If I'm a recruiter, I would have a network of people. If I would do that, I don't do full-time recruiting, so I don't have a network. But if I was a specialist in a certain field, geology for green jobs, I would know a lot of people. And now, even if you're an internal, you're, again, automatic ERP, at least for using LinkedIn Recruiters, a lot of things connecting your employees with all these great people. So there's different ways of finding great people. But now I want to kind of take it to the recruiter level. And this is a question I have for you. You finally get a good person. Person's not looking. Let's just say, let's eliminate active candidates, although they kind of fall within it. But people who aren't looking, but they're open to talk to you. What's the first question? If you got a candidate who's a passive candidate, you get the person on the phone, or they call you up and say, hey, I saw this, I'd like to chat with you. What are some questions they ask with you, or you call someone up who's not looking at all? What are the first questions these people ask you? When the first decide, even if they're interested. So I want you to put that in the chat area. So this is right here is probably one of the key points of being successful as a recruiter or not, is knowing what they ask you on first call. So just type it in general. In general, what do they ask? Who is the company, certainly. What's the pay? If you're a client, obviously, the same thing. Who's the company? What's the pay? Let's go to a couple more here. What's the salary? So that's what they ask. So think about it. They do ask, what's the job title? Who's the company? So if you're a corporate recruiter, they still ask the same thing. What's the comp? Where's the location? Tell me a little bit about the job. Now, pretty short-term stuff, and that's a decision to just engage. Let's go fast forward 3 or 4 weeks. So the person decided to engage. They're sitting there. They were a passive candidate. They might have decided to see about other things, so now they got other opportunities going. They might even get a counteroffer. What's the criteria a top person? So let's assume you placed a top person in the last, think about all the top people you placed, people who did not have to take your job. Let's take the economic need off. They were not looking. You called them, or they had multiple offers. What are some criteria the best people use to say, hey, I want your job? I decided to take this job because of reason A, B, and C. What are those reasons that top people take jobs if they don't need to? Yeah, is it a career opportunity? What's the impact? Chance to do a higher level of work? Reputation of the company? Potential? Yeah. So think about why people accept the job 3 weeks later. Opportunity, job and impact. Hey, I like the hiring manager. This person's a great person to work with. Certainly the compensation's an issue. Comp is work-life and work-life. Those are issues, but it's not number one. And what's interesting is the criteria they use to engage is not the same as the criteria they use to accept. How many people drop out at this moment that you've lost? And I call this the sweet spot. If you can get through that position, you actually have a chance to be a passive candidate recruiter. And to me, this is managing that moment is huge in terms of being a good recruiter. So let me just ask you a few questions. Just to look at it from how good people make decisions. So this is good people. The top half of the top half, the people who are going to raise your talent bar, make you recruiters heroes, the ones you want to get. Not just fill a job, you want to actually hire a top-notch person. If I looked at your job postings, I like to put yes, no, maybe here. If I looked at your job postings and I was a top-notch person, would I look at that and instantly say, well, that's a career move. Yep, I got to apply. I got to engage with you. Or is it a lateral transfer? Is it boring? It's just do more of the same old stuff I'm doing now. So just say, is your job description a lateral transfer or a career move? Just by looking at it, if I found it independently. Okay, so that's a question. I'd like you to put that in the chat. Are your postings career moves or lateral transfers? Don't see anything coming through yet. I got a career move. So, and everybody who says career move, I'd like you to send it to me. I'd like you to send me a copy. And I did this. I got about 30 or 40 of these last 2 weeks ago, a similar program. Not one of them actually described a career move. They're all, a few of them were close, but none of them really would engage. Most people, now I had a few people who said, hey Lou, how could you help me convert this to a career move? Very important that you look at that and say, hey, because that's going to impact your yield, whether they're active on a search engine, whether it's in your talent pool or passive candidates. If you're not defining career moves up front, all these people who don't even get to this point, they haven't even got to the point of talking with you. They've eliminated themselves before they even got there. Now that when they get here, you better be able to bridge the gap here. So let me ask you another question. Do you have a formal process to bridge the gap? You know what people are going to ask. Who cares? I already know they're going to ask about that. I am going to get them past that, and I'm going to give you a technique on how to do it. I'm going to get them past the technique of doing it. Let me just give you one, but this is not the one I have here. I'll give you a quick one. When someone asks me about the money, so you might want to pay attention to this and write it down. I'm going to talk fast. I'm only going to do it once. In boot camp, you practice this an hour. Not an hour, but you certainly practice it. When somebody calls me up and they say, what's the comp? I say, before I get into the comp, let me just pick somebody. Nara, before I get into the comp, Nara, let me just ask you this question. I'd like you to think about a job you've held that really gave you a great deal of personal satisfaction. One that you would look going into like flow. You felt great about it. Was the degree of personal satisfaction the reason you liked the work because of the money or because of the work you were doing? 90% of the people will say it's the work you're doing. So when the candidate says to me, I said, great, Nara, on the chance that the job I represent really offers you a chance to maximize your personal satisfaction and your career growth and at a competitive comp or aggressive comp, wouldn't it make sense to talk 5 or 10 minutes? You have to be able to bridge the gap regardless of what the candidate calls. I don't even tell people these answers. I don't even ask a question that allows them to ask that. I'm not going to get into what I ask them because I know that they're going to ask that question. I work very hard at bridging that gap because I know 3 weeks later this is what they're going to accept on. So I wanted to use that criteria to engage. Now the next question I have for you just at the highest level, if I looked at your hiring process step by step by step, how you write ads, how you post jobs, how you get your recs approved, how the hiring managers, how you screen resumes, how you get them into the ATS, how your candidates apply, is it designed from one of these two fundamental core concepts? Is it based on what I'll call a scarcity of talent model, meaning we don't have a lot of great people, so we have to reach out to them with compelling messages, and we got to treat them like God's gift to the human race? Or do we have a surplus of candidates model where we just assume we're going to get extra candidates for a job, and we've got plenty of good people to choose from? It's really just a screening and a selection process. When I look at most companies' processes, they focus on a surplus of candidates model. Their ATS is designed around that. It's around the legal people. It's around the comp people. It's around the job description. They haven't given a clue to raising the talent bar. So if your underlying process is based on this concept of, hey, we'll have a lot of people apply, we hopefully a good one falls through the cracks, you're going to lose a lot of great people. And you're going to work way too hard. My whole focus is, why don't you build your processes around a scarcity of talent model, understand how good people look, have your hiring manager engage, offer career moves, and go this step by step. So if you had to think about your hiring process, is the core process based on a scarcity of talent model or a surplus model? You don't have to answer that. I mean, you should answer it. You should think about it. It doesn't take much. All I can do is look on your career website, see how hard it is to find your jobs, see what they say. If it's hard to find your jobs, if they describe lateral transfers, and if they make people apply, you got a surplus of candidate model whether you like it or not. You've decided that, hey, we're going to get extra people come in, and we'll find a good person. And then most people say, okay, to offset that, we'll create a great employer brand so we get more good people come in. But you really just all of a sudden you said, let's put our surplus of candidates model on steroids to get more people. But really, when you think about employer brand, that's all it is a surplus of candidates model on steroids. And again, if it works, I'm okay with it. If it works, well, I'm okay. I'm only care about, hey, if you're hiring a great person in the top half of the top half, you go with it. And if it works and it's the cheapest one, you should do it. Okay, so my thoughts are, change your messages, think about your processes, and have a formal process to bridge the gap. That's what it takes to be a real recruiter. It's hard. If you've got a surplus model, you've got to work extra hard to do it. So sometimes you actually have to go out to a third-party recruiter who is a good third-party recruiter. I'm not talking about someone who's posting resumes and trying to sleazeball people in. I'm talking about good third-party recruiters, contingent and retained. I started out in my career as recruiting as a contingent recruiter. I then started training managers on performance-based hiring, so I became a retained recruiter. Truthfully, I liked contingency recruiting better. I really felt that I was professional. I did all the stuff I say, but I could then walk away if the assignment was too hard. And I wouldn't, let's assume that my client was Sandra. Sandra, I'm sorry, I just can't pull that one off. And you knew that it's too hard, and you'd respect me, and I'd just go back, but you'd call me again another time. So I'm talking about good recruiters. But now let me kind of talk about this idea. Let me show you how one thing you can do to become a real recruiter very quickly. And this is turning a job into a career. So first and many of you know, and many of you have seen this exercise before, I probably do in every single workshop or webcast I do, is I do not like job descriptions. Let me first tell you why. First off, let me just ask you a question. If someone has all of those skills, are they guaranteed to be a top performer? Just say yes or no. They have all the skills, are they guaranteed to be a top performer? There's only one answer. That's a question that I forced you to answer no. Of course not. Now let me ask you another question. Have you ever met a top performer who doesn't have all of those skills? Have you ever met a top performer who doesn't have all of those skills? Of course. So if you're using the job description to screen, number one, you're eliminating all the good people who might be great but don't have the skills, and you're bringing a pool of people who are okay with a lateral transfer. So let me ask you this. How many top people are looking for a lateral transfer who are fully employed? None. Well, that's not true if they're out of work. That's a very small percent. So if you use job descriptions, you eliminate all people looking for a career move. You're only getting people who are willing to take a lateral transfer, and you're limiting all people who might be a great person without the right skills, and they might be looking. I mean, so I hate them. I hate them. And you can't find enough good people. You narrow the pool to such a minute fraction, you have to work 10 times harder. So when I first started as a recruiter, I said, hey, guys, I'm not using job descriptions. You're putting the cart before the horse. Let's define the work. In fact, when you look at a job description, it's not a job description. It's a person description. Let's define the work before we define the person. So I asked the manager a different question. What do the best people do? If you're going to hire a great person, what would this person have to do to be in the top half of the top half? Someone you'll go to bat for, someone you'll give a bigger raise, someone you're likely to promote. What would they have to accomplish in a year to get that status of being one of the best people you've ever hired? And they tell me stuff. They build a team, they grow sales, they take over the new accounting department or the manufacturing department, or they launch a new product. They do stuff. And it's measurable. It's almost their performance objectives. I say, tell me the performance objectives. What do they have to do? If you have a performance management system, what are they going to do to ace the performance review? I just want to know that. And when you think about it, that's what the candidates ask me. Hey, what's this job about? Oh, you got to install this, you got to build that. The company's going to building a new project here, and you're going to be in charge of it. Oh, you really know this job, don't you, Lou? Well, you better know it. You're convincing someone to change their life, and if you don't know what work they're going to do, how can you assess them? How can you convince them this is a career move, and you're not going to get a lot of money for it? That's a pretty hard thing to pull off. But now, equally important, because remember I asked you what the top people look for when taking a job? It's not only what they're going to work they're going to be doing, but the impact they make, but also what's the career move. So I asked the hiring managers during the intake meeting is, why would a top person who's fully employed do this work? What's the longer term impact? How can this person grow? What can they become? Is it part of the company mission? So that's how I go from job description to performance profile to the future. And this took me 10 years to see this chart evolve. 10 years of recruiting. It's so obvious, but it took me 10 years to figure it out. If you want to raise your talent bar and find and hire great people, you better understand both the short-term work they're going to be doing and the long-term impact they could have. With that, I then can tell candidates this job is going to be about a modest increase in compensation, but a big increase in job responsibility and growth opportunity. Under that basis, would you be at least willing to talk 5 or 10 minutes? I get candidates say, of course they would. Why would they not? At least engage them. That's how I bridge the gap with those two circles. Now, how I write an email, because I'm not sending emails with job descriptions. I'm not even going to do a job posting with a job description. There's no law that says you have to post your job descriptions. It says that you might have to post the skills, but you don't have to put them at the top. You can put them at the bottom. And you got to post them anyway because people got to find it. But you can put ranges. You can do a lot of things. So here's how I suggest you write an ad or an email. You start with the EVP. Highlight the future. Hey, we're looking for salespeople to grow our new product line in Northeast Territory. An opportunity to take a virgin territory and make it the biggest one in the country. Help launch our new series of iPhone apps. We expect to be #1 in the iCloud iPhone iApp marketplace. Start with that. Start with the EVP. Make it exciting. As part of this project, you're going to be part of a cross-functional team with marketing, manufacturing, and finance, and be part of a great new project. We need a software developer that's going to take the lead on doing this, this, and this. Put the EVP. We expect you to probably have 3 to 5 years in this and 2 years of this and a degree here to be part of this, but if you think you're capable, we'd like to talk to you anyway. That's how you put an ad together. That's how you put an email together. You lead with the employee value proposition. You emphasize the doing. You minimize the having. Start with the future. Emphasize the present. Minimize the past. That's how candidates make decisions. So why don't you have your advertising follow the way they make decisions to engage with them? Now you've automatically bridged the gap. Your advertising helps you bridge the gap. They want, hey, I'd like to learn more about that. They don't say, what's the money? I'd like to learn more about that job you're talking about. The money comes in when it's supposed to come in. It's not unimportant, but it's not #1. And yet when you engage with a candidate, it's always #1, which says that the way you engage is wrong. So let's change the way we engage. That's what a talent scarcity model does. A candidate surplus model says, hey, it's just a commodity job, lateral transfer, then it's about the money. Your only differentiator is the money. I don't differentiate on the money. I differentiate on the career move and the opportunity. Thoughts, comments, or questions? We're getting close to the end here, and I got a few more things I want to highlight anyway. What's your take on this? Interesting, not so interesting? Thoughts, comments, or questions? I get an interesting, and all you can say is interesting. Well, too interesting. I guess it is interesting. I like Sarah's comment. Great shift or great stuff. Good comment, Sarah. Okay, so let's just think about bridging the gap. This is a different kind of a way to look at it, but here you got people who are fully employed. They're fully employed. You're going to call them up. Changing jobs is a big risk. It is about the long term. It's trying to get there. And you have to be able to get people from thinking about the past and security to thinking about the future and opportunity. And it's a critical thing. This is where it really happens. This is the key to passive candidate recruiting. If you want to maximize your number of calls, make the call from beginning to end, you've got to be able to bridge this gap here. Candidates make, I call it full disclosure, the idea of control, and this is what real recruiting is about. To me, this is the heart of real recruiting, is to get, I don't mind a candidate opting out of an opportunity if they understand the opportunity. It bothers the heck out of me when a candidate opts out because of superficial information that the recruiter didn't give them properly. It's not about the money. It's not about the title. It's not about some superficial stuff. It's about, hey, this is a great career move. Don't you deserve to spend a few minutes discussing it? That's how you get them engaged. I want the candidate to have full disclosure, full information. Not a great job. Fine. I'm okay with that. You now have the right information. I don't take, as part of it in recruiting boot camp, we say no no's. First off, I don't ask questions to be answered by no, and I'm not going to tell you what that question is. You got to go to boot camp to learn it. It's not a lot of money based on the impact you're going to become, 20, 40, 50, 100% more productive. It's insignificant in terms of the money. It makes you a better person. No no's. It means you asked a silly question, but even if you did, you're going to hang in there. You have to desist instantly to long term. It's about a career, not about the money. It's about strategy, not tactics. It's about making a full, complete decision on every aspect that will affect your life and your career. It's about maximizing your personal growth. It's not even about location. I had a person 3 weeks ago, absolutely did, for a director, big job, big financial job, told my researcher absolutely did not want to relocate. Absolutely didn't want to relocate. I told my researcher, just plant the seed. Would you be open to talk to Lou on the basis this is an extraordinary career move? If it isn't, at least you've networked. She said, of course. When I called the woman up, she said, yeah, I've been thinking what Amy said yesterday. That is a good company, and I probably should get a little bit more serious this really as a career move. She had already started thinking about it as a career move. It took her overnight to think about it. I talked with her this morning, ready to accept an offer. But when we talked to her, absolutely not relocated. Greatest job in the world, have to relocate. The idea is you have to do this every person. Every single, you're not going to get them all. You're not going to get 100%, but you'll increase from 1 in 100 to 30 or 40 in 100. Part of it is staying the buyer. You have to determine if you're interested in the candidate. You have to, and if you're not interested in the candidate for this job, you have to learn to network. If you're selling the job, that's not recruiting. Recruiting is getting the candidate to sell you. We show you how to do it in boot camp. It's probably the key thing to control. And I do want candidates to think about it. And if I truly believe it's a great job, I'll fight the heck for it. But I want the candidate to at least have full information. And feel free to ask questions. Yeah, I think Anna said that. Yeah, this is what I call real recruiter workshop. This is what it is. So let me kind of give you one that I think this is the first close I ever learned as a recruiter. First thing I ever learned as a recruiter. And I wasn't a recruiter. It was my first job as a manager. I was manager of financial planning at Rockwell Automotive. I was 26 years old, got my MBA a year before that. I was a financial analyst at Rockwell Corporate. I got transferred to Detroit. And I immediately, like 3 days there, my boss calls up, hey, Lou, we got too many people down at the University of Michigan. We got 20 people. We need MBAs to fill out the team. You're on the hiring team right now. I said, I don't know how to hire. I've been a manager a year. I've been a manager 3 days. I said, too bad, I'll teach you. But I've used the same close, and this is what we did with, slightly different, but I'm modifying it for today, but I'll give you both stories. My boss, I sat in there, he said, And we're talking MBAs. We're competing with IBM, Procter & Gamble, and Ford, which are the hot companies. We were Rockwell Automotive making truck axles. So one was kind of plebeian, one was kind of sexy. Our business was not great. But we knew we could offer something different. So what Chuck said, who was my boss at the time, he says, what you do over the next few years will impact your long-term career. The key is to use the next few years to maximize your growth. Now, I've modified that a little bit. You're talking with someone who's a little bit cautious to say this. The key is to use the next few years to recover the lost past years. You sound like a great person. Let me pick somebody. Anil, let me just pick somebody. Karen. You sound like a great person, Karen, but your job really hasn't changed much in the last few years. What you do over the next 3 to 4 years to maximize your growth really will be the key differentiator. Under the basis that the job I represent really can maximize your career growth, wouldn't it make sense to talk 5 or 10 or 15 minutes? And this person says yes. And then you do this. I said, typically, this is what Chuck did during that meeting. He drew this little learning curve. He said, let's plot this, and he drew a little piece on a notepad. His actual years on the bottom, on the x-axis, equivalent years on the y-axis. He said, most people in a big company like IBM, Procter & Gamble, Ford, you'll be in your job, and you'll love it. The first year will be great. Second year will still be pretty good, but after that you'll say, yeah, I'm doing the same stuff. And after about 4 or 5 years, you'll get another job, and then you'll love it for a year or two. But before you know it, 8 to 10 years is out, and you've got 3 or 4 years experience. If you come to Rockwell Automotive, what we'll do is we'll put you on a faster path. As soon as we see that growth curve flattening, you'll be on another curve. When that flattens, you'll be on another curve. And he said, and just to give you my sense, Chuck was a number 2 financial guy. He was my boss, number 2 financial guy for a $2 billion operation with 23 automotive plants around the world. This is back in 1972, guys. I was 26 years old and was only there for a year, and I became a manager. And he said, and so Chuck is 28, I'm 26. He said, Lou's on his first path right here. I'm on my third one here. Chuck already had 3 jobs, number 2 financial guy. He then, his next job was, he became number 2 guy in a publicly traded company, and at 32, he was the CFO of a publicly traded company, 33 years old. Passed away at a very early age. He was a remarkable man, which I'm very sad to say that. Nonetheless, I learned this at the University of Michigan. We just draw this chart. He said, you know, if you go to Rockwell in 5 years, you're going to have 10 years experience. You go to Ford, to get that, you'll be 20 years before you get to that level. We talked to 20 students, took 10 of them out to dinner that night in Ann Arbor, hired 6 of them. Every one of those 6 had offers from Ford, IBM, or Procter & Gamble, and every one of them today, well, some of them retired, but had become at least a VP finance, if not bigger, for a major corporation. The idea is that you have to look at the long term, not the short term. This, to me, is one of the best, and I still use this closing technique now. Are you in a situation that can put you in a fast growth track? And I talked with this woman this morning. She's taking the offer because she says she's got 2 offers now. Wasn't looking. Now she has 2 offers. No question. Your client, Lou, is, I'll have 2 or 3 jobs in the next 5 years. The other one, I'll be doing the same thing 5 years from now. Pretty important close. That's real recruiting. So now I want you to rank your third-party recruiter, if you are, and rank yourself. Vote for me as your favorite third-party recruiter. This is how you'd vote yes. I deliver great talent when you need it. And I think you should use a third-party recruiter when you need it. You got to pay a fee, but if you do everything else right and you still can't find it, a good third-party recruiter can help you out. It's not to say you as a corporate recruiter couldn't do it, but I would just say a good third-party recruiter helpful too. You should use them, a third-party recruiter, when you can't find a great person for one reason or other, or you don't have time. They should be well networked. If they're not, I wouldn't use them. They should be able to be a part of your company team. They should be embedded in your team, used when you need them. I know your managers, I know your company, your culture. If they don't do that, don't use them. But on the other hand, if you find some good third-party recruiters, invite them in. Have them be part of your team. Recognize that they're going to charge you a fee, but don't make it something obnoxious and make it hard. Embed them. They have certain skills that you can use that are valuable. And that's part of the message that BountyJobs is presenting. And I'm not saying everybody on BountyJobs is perfect. On the other hand, they do have some interesting talent there, and if you're going to use them, you might want to just consider them and then train them. So if you find a good TPR, build them up and make them part of your team, recognizing that they're not a source that you can use for the future. And a good one shouldn't mislead. They should deliver results. If I was still doing contingency recruiting, I would want to make that pitch, and I would not. And if I can't deliver good people, fire me, and I have no problem with that. I did not reduce my fees, and I went a lot of if somebody hired, they give me, hey Lou, we're going to hire 8 people from you this year. I give them 25%. I never went lower than that. But I said, fire me if I don't. If my person isn't fiber, so we got other people charging 15 and 20%. I said, if my candidate, just put a price tag on my candidate's head. If that candidate isn't 5 or 10% better, don't use me. But if they are, use me. And I promise you, that's the skill. If I don't deliver better people, you shouldn't pay me a fee. And I remember one VP HR from a big tech company calls me up. She was new, said, Lou, this is it. And I just said, just value my candidates based on if they're superior. She calls me up about a week later, Lou, I cannot believe it. Every single candidate is far superior to everybody else. You are going to be our primary third-party recruiter. And we did. I probably placed 15 or 20 people with that company in the next 4 or 5 years. You got to deliver the results. If they don't deliver better people, boy, that's just, what's the point? So why I think third-party recruiters are useful. They better deliver results. And if they do, give your third-party recruiter, give your corporate, if you're a hiring manager, give your corporate recruiter a hug too if they deliver results. They deserve it. My typical third-party recruiter, it's not about presentation or first impressions, it's about results. Okay, so here's my recruiter checklist. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to open it up to the audience. Number 1, whether you're a corporate recruiter or a third-party recruiter, you must be a partner with your hiring manager. Define career success up front. Don't use job descriptions. Make them convert to a performance profile. If you go to our recruiter boot camp, we show you exactly how to do it. We give you scripts. We spend a heck of a lot of time on this component right there. If you've got great candidates applying to your jobs because of a great employer brand, continue to do it. If you don't, if your job descriptions aren't pulling in candidates, you got to change the process. So I don't believe a candidate scarcity or a candidate surplus model works for high demand positions or where talent is critical. If it does, okay, cheaper. I'm not an idiot. Number 3, I think if you need top talent, you do need to implement what I call a talent-centric sourcing process, focusing on from beginning to end, how do good people make these decisions, not how average people make decisions. Hopefully a good one falls through the cracks. Part of it is you have to be a great networker. If I get you guys on the phone, and if you have LinkedIn Recruiter, you know we have a special course for LinkedIn Recruiter, and I say it's not about finding names on LinkedIn. It's about networking with the names you find on LinkedIn. That's the secret of using LinkedIn. It's not the names on LinkedIn. It's about networking with the names on LinkedIn and getting pre-qualified referrals. That's the skill. Then you got to be able to bridge the gap when you get these people on the phone. You've got to convert the candidate from a no, not interested, like this woman 3 or 4 weeks ago, not interested. Maybe I should talk to you. Yes, I want the job. That's everything. It's no, maybe, yes. No, maybe. If you take no for an answer, you never get to the maybe. And you get people dropping out. 100 no's, you get 50 maybes, and you get 5 or 6 yeses. That's a pretty good yield, better than 100 no's or closes. And what I do, and this is a real important tip. If you only remember this, you've learned something from this. I never sell the job. I sell the next step. Would you be open to have, if on the circumstances this job represents a great career move, would you be open to a 5 or 10 minute conversation? It's easy to say yes to that. It's not about the relocation. It's about a 5 or 10 minute discussion. That changes the relationship you have with a candidate. It's not this high pressure sales of filling the job. It's about a career discussion. Not a lateral transfer. Career discussion. And when I close the deal, it's about, and I tell candidates, I want you to put, do you want this job if it was just a modest increase in compensation? Because if you don't, let's stop now. Because if you're taking this job primarily for a big increase in compensation, you will be unhappy a year from now. If this isn't a job that you feel is a career move, don't go forward. Now, if you do think it's a career move, I'll help you do the best I can to maximize your comp, but that's got to be 3rd or 4th on the list. And it's probably going to be a modest increase. You just got to go in there. If it's more than that, great. But make the decision based on the career opportunity. And if they pull that off, give your real recruiter a hug. Okay, so let me kind of, this is something that happened. You can read this. We train hiring managers. We train a lot of hiring managers. Train more hiring managers than recruiters. Because you, the recruiter, while you have to have some skills, if the hiring manager is not engaged, it's not going to work. It's only half the equation. Here's what one hiring manager said when we made a pitch over at LinkedIn. Shocked. As I was walking out the door, I saw him walking in the door. Pure random luck. There's a guy that I trained 3 years ago. He then went to the HR team and suggested Lou's training absolutely works. The people who use it at Yahoo hired better people. This was when Yahoo was a good company. But they were still competing with Microsoft and Google, so they succeeded because they created career moves. So if you want to become a part of the hiring manager and become a real recruiter, if you'd like, email us. We'll have a quick 30, 40 minute, really for no cost. We'll just go through some of the stuff. We'll look at your website ahead of time. We can tell you where you are. So we'll give you a quick review on you have a scarcity model or a surplus model. We'll give you some ideas. You should attend Recruiter Bootcamp. We have one starting tomorrow. We have an online program. We also have a live program. We have a couple programs. We have a sneak peek, so you feel free to attend our sneak peek on September 30th. We have one a month. I will be in Toronto next Tuesday if you can make it. You want to be there, live program. You got to pay, but you got to go. I'll be in New York City on the 15th next week. If you go, it's a live program. I'll be in D.C. in the end of October. Online program, it's an equivalent program, 4 2-hour modules, and we cover all the stuff I just talked about. We show you how to do it. That one starts tomorrow, so 4 weeks. Interestingly, one fee. You can go to any training you want. You can go to Toronto. You can go to New York. You can come back if it's within a year. So we offer you this training. It's one size, all-you-can-eat training. We also provide a 24-hour learning, 24/7 full-year learning center with forms, tools, templates, guides, wizards. We got it all. We actually walk you through it. And we have a coach that gets you certified. For one fee, that's what I say, the fee is insignificant. There's a heck of a lot more work on your part. You pull it off, so you will be a better recruiter. No question about it. Let me just make the statement for BountyJobs. I'm going to open up for questions. Yeah, let me just answer one question from Alan. I argued that. I had lunch with Kevin Wheeler a couple weeks ago. Kevin, you're absolutely wrong. He thinks everything's going to be outsourced. So the question from Alan is, I'm going to interpret, do you think the internal recruiting team is on the way out and everything will be outsourced? I might have misinterpreted your question, Alan, but I had Kevin Wheeler, and he's a good friend of mine. I've known Kevin for 10, 12 years. Love the guy. He's a great guy. But we argued about that. I said, Kevin, you're out. No way. Now, on the other hand, I think if you're just filling positions, with average talent, then I think that model is out of the way. I think a third-party recruiter, think about an RPO, and this is with Kevin's argument, they can specialize in certain areas. They can specialize in some of the areas that they specialize in. And if they can do that and they're deeper networked, it's an interesting model. And I say, well, certainly if they increase quality of hire, it would work at a reasonable cost. There's no reason, this is my counter-argument, Kevin, there's no reason why the corporate recruiting department couldn't do that. They also have the ability to engage more closely with hiring managers. So I would almost say that a third-party recruiter, because they can't, a big RPO, can't engage as well with the hiring managers, that the internal team done properly could blow away an external team. So that was my argument. So I don't know if that helped. It's a good answer for you or not, but that's how I would answer it. Let me just kind of give my pitch for BountyJobs. I'm not going to contend that every single recruiter on BountyJobs is world class, but I am going to contend that BountyJobs is a very interesting model. They will manage all your third-party recruiters. If you force them, they will set up the standards for those third-party recruiters. Third-party recruiters who are well-networked could actually be a great resource for you. So from that standpoint, from a management standpoint, from a fee standpoint, from an administrative standpoint, they can take a lot of the rigmarole out of it. If then you guys override that with standards of excellence and standards of performance, a service level agreement with these people, now all of a sudden they can be your source. So you can, hey, obviously you write a great ad, obviously if you do all the things you can do, but why go out to a third-party recruiter randomly? Build a source of third-party recruiters who meet your standards, bring them into your company, let them do what they do best, and use them when you need them, and use BountyJobs as the manager of this group. If you pull that off, I think it's a great solution. There's no fee for it, so you should try BountyJobs out regardless. No fee. It's contingency recruiter. I don't know, Mike was going to be his president. He's down at ERE now. They handle all the disputes. They handle all the management. They will guarantee it. If the candidate falls out within the guarantee period, they pay you back. Their corporate, then they'll deal with the recruiter. So they really do act as a great middleman for this spot. My contention is that it is a good resource, and I think they're getting profoundly better. If they get clients who really recognize what it takes to be an excellent third-party recruiter, you can have your cake and you can eat it too. It doesn't mean, so I think you got to look at it as the corporate client, have to, hey, how would we manage this resource better? And that to me is what real recruiting is all about, is they are valuable. But I don't think we manage them properly, but I think BountyJobs as a go-between can really offer you both the administrative piece, the management piece, the fee negotiation piece, as well as the service level standards. So with that, I'm going to stop. We got a few minutes. Any questions that you guys feel? So we have Sandra, we have one. We use them as been very resourceful for us. And I think they could be better. And I think we got an opportunity here to bring a market together for candidates who are right there on the margin. So when you need somebody, if they're well networked, you can find somebody, hey, you got to pay a fee. But if the company knows you, you get the fee and you get a good candidate. You pay a fee and you don't get a good candidate, what a waste your time. Yeah, I'd be turned off by that too. Any thoughts, comments, or questions about real recruiting? Any of this stuff? You know, as a minimum, guys, as an absolute minimum, go to the sneak peek next 3 weeks, September 30th. We give you a good overview of what this is like and how we train recruiters. If you can make it to New York, if you can make it to Toronto, make it to D.C., love to see you there. You will find the program invaluable. I'm pushing you. I mean, it is boot camp. I call it boot camp. It's not, I'm not an easy guy. I expect you guys to be great. I don't accept anything less than that. So I push it. But you'll call me up next week and say, Lou, thank you. So I hope I can see you at one of these boot camp sessions or training, and I'd like to be able to say thank you for coming, because that to me is what I do. And I truly believe in what I do here, and I think you can tell. And I think it can be changed. I think a great corporate recruiter, a great third-party recruiter is really driving your company's talent. It's a strategic asset. Well, you have to consider yourself a strategic asset and become better than you are today. And if you pull that off, I'll help you get there. So that's my pitch. Any comments or questions? I think it's in Tyson's, if you go to adlerconcepts.com under tour training, I'm pretty sure we're in Tyson's corner. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not positive. They don't tell me that until I get there. So thanks, everybody. Hope this was helpful. Hopefully see you at boot camp. Bye, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Lou, and thank you to everyone for joining us. You will be getting a follow-up email in your inbox that has a lot of the follow-up information that Lou promised, so be looking for that within the hour. We'll hope to see you on a future